I was never exactly one of them. Even though I was raised by my parents since I was a baby, even though my pictures are in every family album, even though they call me son, cousin, nephew, there was always a side glance, a misplaced word, a silence louder than any forced hug. And a lot of that came from my Aunt Vera. Vera was always that kind of person who smiled while cutting you from the inside. She had this passive-aggressive way of saying I wasn't really part of the family, that I was a gift from God, like I was picked up at the store and not born from the right blood. But I endured it, out of respect, for my parents, for everything they did for me. That Sunday, everything seemed normal. Bright sun, barbecue grilling, cold beer, kids running in the backyard. One of those family lunches where everyone looks happy, even when half of them secretly hate each other. I was sitting in the garden with Julia, my cousin. We always got along. Since we were kids, she never treated me as different. We'd share stories, give each other advice, laugh about school gossip. That day, we were talking about college entrance exams. She wanted to study psychology, and I was thinking about journalism. It was a peaceful conversation until my aunt showed up. She appeared out of nowhere with that fake smile and sharp gaze. You should really start learning your limits, you know? She said, staring directly at me, but loud enough for everyone to hear. Just because you don't share the same blood doesn't mean this turns into a mess. Julia is your cousin, boy. Get your head straight. Time stopped. Someone dropped a glass. My uncle coughed, trying to mask the awkwardness. My dad clenched his jaw, and my mom lowered her eyes. I was in shock. All I could say was, "Aunt, what are you talking about?" Don't play innocent. Always glued to her, laughing, touching her arm, complimenting her. That's not how cousins act. And especially being adopted, you should know better. We took you in, but everything has its limits. The word took you and hit me like a punch. Taken in, like I was a charity case. Like my place that was fragile, temporary. Conditional on not crossing some invisible line I never even knew existed. I stood up, speechless. Everyone was looking at me as if I had done something dirty, as if I was the strange one, the intruder. No one defended me. No one. Julia tried to speak, but her mother gave her that look, the kind that shuts even the bravest ones down. So she said nothing. I felt naked, humiliated. I went back inside, walked to the bathroom, splashed water on my face. But it didn't wash away anything. Not the shame, not the anger, not the bitter taste of being thrown to the lions over a cruel lie. It was right there, in front of that foggy mirror, that I made a decision. If they drag my name to the mud over something I never did, then they're going to feel what I do know. And what I know will hurt a lot more than any lie they ever told about me. In the days that followed that damn lunch, it felt like my aunt's accusation had turned into a sentence. It didn't matter what I said, how I explained myself, or how many times I insisted it was a lie. Her words had spread like poison, and no one cared about my side of the story. By Monday, my family's WhatsApp group had turned into a courtroom. Passive-aggressive messages, veiled advice, indirect jabs. People who never even said good morning to me suddenly felt entitled to tell me I needed to know my place. My cousin Kyle, who'd been picking on me since we were kids, went straight to the point. You always looked at Julia weird. Now it all makes sense. I replied with a simple, what makes sense is your mom's poison running through this family's veins. I left the group right after, blocked everyone. But blocking them on my phone didn't silence what was said behind closed doors, or the echoes inside my head. At school, it didn't take long for the news to spread. Julia was popular, and no matter how hard she tried to avoid it, someone always brought it up. Is it true your cousin was hitting on you? That's disgusting. But he's not a blood relative, right? Maybe that's why. She tried to defend me. She did. But I could see in her eyes that she was under pressure too, as if it were her fault, as if she had let something happen that never even happened. And the worst part? No one there knew that the only thing I had actually done wrong was trust that family like they were mine. At home, the atmosphere was another nightmare. My mom walked around with her head down. I heard her crying in the bedroom. And when I asked what was going on, she'd only say, "It's just a hard moment. We'll get through it." My dad, he tried to stay composed. "Don't pay attention, son. Your aunt is poisonous. This will pass." But he never said that in front of anyone else. He didn't call Vera out, didn't speak up in a group, didn't talk to anyone. He just hoped time would fix it. But time didn't take away the weight of walking through the school halls, being looked at like a pervert. Time didn't make me forget the snickering I heard whenever I walked by. People didn't know the details, but they knew enough to whisper. They knew the adopted boy was accused of hitting on his cousin, and that was enough to make me a joke. I started avoiding leaving my room, stopped replying to the few friends who still messaged me. I isolated myself, but pain turned into anger, and from that anger came a memory. I remembered an old conversation, a few months back. One day when I was in the living room on my computer, and I overheard my mom talking to my dad. Vera's been calling Morrow way too often lately. It's starting to bother me. Morrow was my mom's husband, my stepdad, the man who raised me since I was 8. And Vera? My mom's sister, my aunt. At the time, I thought it was just jealousy, couple stuff. But now, after everything that happened, that memory hit like a punch to the gut. I started paying attention, looking back, connecting the dots. I remembered how Vera always made sure to invite Morrow to everything, how she messaged him constantly, asking for help with her car, investment tips, work advice. I also remembered how he smiled differently when he talked to her. Subtle, but different. One memory came rushing back. A Sunday when I got home and saw the two of them sitting on my grandma's porch. Just the two of them, laughing, very close. Her hand on his knee, like she didn't even notice. His eyes on her, like he definitely did and liked it. Back then, it just felt off. But now it made too much sense. Too much sense to be just paranoia. And then, as if the universe wanted to confirm I wasn't crazy, it happened the moment that changed everything. I came home early from a friend's place on a Saturday night, caught an empty bus, and as I walked down the avenue, I passed by a motel, a well-known place, discreet, always closed up. But that night, I saw two people coming out. From a distance, I recognized the silhouette, blonde hair tied in a bun, the muffled laugh, and the face, her face, my Aunt Vera. Next to her, the man who slept next to my mother every night. Morrow. I froze, had to hide behind a tree so they wouldn't see me. My heart was pounding like crazy. They were holding hands, let go before reaching the car, acted natural, like it was routine. I was shaking, but I kept my cool, took out my phone, opened the camera, snapped 2 photos. You couldn't see everything clearly, but you could recognize them. And after they drove off into night, I just stood there, legs weak, head spinning. I had the truth that could destroy the woman who had shattered me inside, the truth that not only proved my innocence, but revealed who the real traitor was. But now, I needed to think about my next step, because just showing it wasn't enough. It had to be at the right moment, in front of everyone, in front of those who laughed, who judged, who abandoned me. I wanted justice, but more than anything, I wanted her to feel what I felt, alone, exposed, defenseless, and I already knew when it would happen. At the next family lunch, the table would become a courtroom again, but this time she would be the one on trial. When my mother said there would be another family lunch the following Sunday, something inside me lit up. The old ritual. Everyone in Grandma's backyard, beer, background music, fake laughs, and hypocrisy served on a platter. But this time it would be different. This time, I wouldn't be the target. This time, the truth would be the main course. I spent the whole week barely speaking, focused, quiet, but inside I was a volcano. I kept looking at the photos on my phone like someone checking if their weapon is loaded. I had to stay in control. I couldn't explode too soon. On Saturday, I told everything to Julia. I pulled her aside at school and asked bluntly, "Do you trust me?" She hesitated, looked away, then back at me. "I do. Even after everything. I know you never tried anything with me." Then I showed her the photos, told her what I saw, the motel, the touches, the laughter. Her eyes widened and she almost dropped the phone. "My mom and Morrow? Are you sure?" I saw it with my own eyes. And there's more. I started putting everything together. The constant calls, the invites, the way she looks at him at parties. There's always been something off. And now the mask is coming off. She went silent, ran her hand over her face, and then said something that surprised me. I've suspected for a while, but I never wanted to believe it. In that moment, I knew I wasn't alone. And even though many had hurt me, there was still someone who saw who I truly was. Sunday came. I wore a white shirt and dark jeans. Nothing fancy. But inside, I was dressed for war. I arrived a little early, greeted Grandma, hugged my dad, helped set up the chairs in the backyard. My mother looked at me with sadness, but also a glimmer of strength in her eyes, as if she felt something was about to change. An hour later, the star of the tragedy appeared, Aunt Vera, in a light pink dress, sunglasses, and a soap opera smile. Right behind her, Morrow, calm, as if he were the best husband in the world. When he saw me, he tried a slight nod. I met it with a firm stare. That would be the last time he'd make that gesture to me. Lunch was served. Meats, rice, salad, sodas, and beer. Forced laughs, old jokes. But the air was tense. I could feel the stares, feel the barbs hidden in every comment. And then, as if she felt entitled to reopen the wound, Vera said, "So, Julia, feeling better now? After that little awkward moment with our dear cousin here, right?" Everyone went silent. Julia froze. My heart sped up. This was it. I stood up from my chair. "Since you brought it up, Annie, I think it's about time we clear the air. Because I'm done being treated like garbage because of your lie." She raised an eyebrow, wearing that cynical look. "A lie, dear? I just said what anyone with eyes could see." "Oh, really? Then let's see if the family's eyes can see this too." I took out my phone, opened the photos, zoomed in, showed the screen. Here you are, with Morrow, leaving a motel. This was last Saturday. I saw it. I documented it. I kept it, and now I'm showing it. The sound that followed was the sound of a family breaking. My grandmother dropped her fork. My dad jumped from his chair. My mom turned white as a sheet. And Morrow froze. "That's a lie." Vera screamed. "That's been photoshopped." "Want me to show the metadata? The timestamp? The location?" "I can. Just say the word." Morrow tried to step in. "This isn't what it looks like." But my mother stood up and shouted, "Shut up." It was the first time in my life I saw my mother yell like that. Her hand was shaking, eyes filled with tears. She looked at her sister with disgust. You come into my house, eat my food, kiss my cheek, and go around sleeping with my husband? And you still have the nerve to destroy my son? To make up a sick lie to ruin his name and cover your own filth?" The silence was absolute. You could only hear the birds outside. My aunt lost her poise, started crying, mumbling nonsense. Morrow tried to explain himself, but was cut off by my dad. "You're not a man worthy of this house." Then my grandmother, nearly 80 and with the firmest voice I'd ever heard, stood up. "Vera, you're not welcome here anymore. You and Morrow are no longer part of this family. And if you want to keep any shred of respect, leave now." I'd never seen anything like it. The woman everyone feared, the one who always had the last word, was now being thrown out like a stray dog. They tried to defend themselves, but no one wanted to hear it. Julia was crying, but she looked at me with relief, a look that finally saw the truth come to light. The lie was over. The weapon had turned on the one who wielded it. And me, I didn't smile. I just took a deep breath. For the first time in weeks, I felt light. After that lunch, what remained was silence. Not the awkward silence of people avoiding a subject, but the silence of those who finally watched everything collapse, and now have to deal with the scattered pieces. My mother didn't cry in front of anyone anymore, but I knew. She cried at night, when she thought no one could hear. It was mourning, a silent mourning for the end of a marriage she believed was solid, for the loss of trust between sisters, for the weight of having carried that family for so long, only to be betrayed in her own home. She tried to keep up appearances, like she always did. Washed clothes, cooked, went to work, but her eyes no longer hid the pain. The only thing she said to me that Sunday night was, "Thank you, son, for showing me before I died blind." And I understood. What I did wasn't just revenge. It was liberation. For me, and for her. Morrow packed his bags 2 days later. He left in shame, silent, without even trying to explain himself. Left a ridiculous note in the kitchen, saying he needed to understand his feelings and didn't want to cause more pain. I crumpled the paper before my mother could read it. She didn't need that. Vera, on the other hand, tried. She called Grandma, cousins, my dad, tried to play the victim, said it was all a lie, that the photos might have been misinterpreted, that she was being slandered, but it didn't work. The masks had already fallen, and there was no one left to hold hers up. She was removed from the family group chats, wasn't invited to Grandma's birthday, or the cousin's baby's baptism. She vanished from the gatherings, disappeared from the radar, as if she had never existed. And Julia? Julia, we grew closer than ever before. Not in the way the malicious family used to insinuate, but like two survivors of the same shipwreck. She kept apologizing for not standing up for me sooner, for not confronting her mother from the beginning. And I'd say, you were a victim too. The difference is, now we know who the villains are. With time, the teasing at school faded. The same people who laughed at me started laughing at Vera behind her back. The photos that go around. And ironically, that's what cleared my name. The weird kid became the guy who exposed his family's hypocrisy. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not ashamed either. Truth is, today I carry scars. You can't go through something like that and come out unscathed. I learned that blood doesn't define loyalty, that the title of aunt, cousin, or even stepfather means nothing without respect, and that sometimes the truth hurts more than a lie, but it heals. My mom started therapy, slowly began to smile again. So did I. I went back to playing guitar, to leaving the house without fear stares. I went back to being me, only stronger. Today, when I look back, I don't feel anger. I feel pride, because I could have stayed silent, hid, become what they wanted me to be. The adopted kid who keeps his head down, the boy who swallows his tears, the almost cousin who never truly belonged. But I didn't. I spoke. I showed. And in the end, I was heard. And maybe that's the greatest miracle in a family, to make the truth echo louder than the poison.